Who's censored more, liberals versus conservatives? Oh, I wonder who. You know, that's not the right question to be asking. Who's censored more? The right question to be asking isn't who's censored more. The correct question to ask here is who censors more. Okay? And it's progressives, because progressives are toxic, right? Not like little, not all of them. Like the little online controls are toxic. Those little hyper left-wing progressives are super toxic. Okay, liberals, I don't know. I see liberal as just somebody to the left, and a conservative somebody to the right. That's all I really see. It's those far leftists that are like, oh, you said that you don't like it when girls have arm hair. Well, you know what? You don't deserve a job. That's what it comes down to. Okay, it's the leftists are the ones who censor more. Okay. That's the reality of this situation. Look at that's me dancing. All right, let's watch this freaking video.
Take, for example, like white supremacy. They don't go away because you censored them.
Are they going to stop being a white supremacist? I don't give a I do feel safer.
I don't even know what the hell's happening. We're off to a great start. I'm so confused.
Platforms.
Yeah. Let's put this at increased speed.
Play a big part in facilitating hate today.
Twitter specifically has banned a number of different conservative accounts, not just the press.
They can do whatever they want. They're private businesses.
I think that people should be able to say whatever they want online. However, I think that there should also be consequences.
The president of one of the most...
Well, that means that you don't believe that people should be able to say whatever they want on social media. What sounds more like is you're like, I want somebody to slip up so I can cancel them. On Black Twitter, here comes Black Twitter. A kid that's 13 said the N-word, guacamole penis. Uh-oh. Fuck your mom's job. Boo, 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 boo. Sky Jackson.
Powerful countries in the world doesn't have access to social media.
I think platforms have a right to moderate content.
We really have to be able to discern who gets a voice and what they're able to say.
We need people in the conservative field to fight for our right to be conservative.
As somebody who has experienced censorship, it ends up generating these chambers in which these ideas go completely
I mean, why were you censored? You probably fucking told somebody, you called them the N-word or something stupid. You know, that's why we got all this fucking craziness here. You know, people are like, we should, like, there probably should be some censorship. I don't really feel comfortable with some dude going around throwing out the fucking, throwing out the N-word as, like, some white. I don't even feel comfortable with anybody saying it, but this freaking white dude's like, hey, I should be able to say it. I'm with my friends. Like, say it with your friends, keep it off the internet. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody kind of has to ask themselves, should everybody really be able to say what they want to say?
Yes. What? That's a weird thing to say. Just make sure you know who you're saying it to, okay? I'm not going to go on fucking Twitter and say what I say in the real world, okay? That would be ridiculous.
Hi, I'm Leah Thomas. I am a writer and the founder of Intersectional Environmentalist, which is an online environmental media hub.
Hi.
Oh, fuck, we're already off to a bad start. Fucking intersectional. Fucking progressive theory, bro. And all these theories are annoying, okay? Listen, as somebody who worked a real job, not like an online poopy job, I mean, I do that now. Nobody gives a shit. And the black people at the jobs aren't worried about fucking intersectionality and critical race theory. They're just worried about getting their paper. Ultimate equalizer, bro. Getting a job, okay? You know what's so great about the job force? So great about, you know, capitalist job force is that, like, they need to employ people, and they just take whoever takes the job. Pretty cool. All right?
I'm Lawrence. I'm a public policy analyst for San Bernardino County.
Hi, I'm Bennett Kelly. I'm the founder of the Internet Law Center, and I'm an attorney who represents victims of online harassment.
I'm Michael. I'm 30.
Victims of online harassment, bro. You want to know how you cure online harassment? Check this out. I'm going to show you. Get up and walk away. All you have to do, harass me there. Harass me now. I'm not even at my fucking computer. Harass me there. Where are you gonna harass me? I'm gone. Turn off the computer. I'm done.
I'm conservative and I work in finance.
My name is Jerome.
I've seen that guy before.
I am 21 and I'm originally from Massachusetts.
Me too.
Hello, I'm Joseph. I'm an accountant and I'm working towards my CPA.
I've seen him too.
Poker player.
Poker player?
The
what the
prompt
fuck?
is, the right is more censored than the left.
I mean, yeah, that's like objectively true. And that's because the right is associated with actual, like, heavy bigotry. And the left is the one who censors, you know? Right?
I mean, we think it's obvious, right?
Yeah. It is obvious. An objective truth. Like, there's no debating that. The right is, because usually you got the bigots on the right. That's where the rights usually go. the outward comfortable, you know, your KKKs and your Nazis are always on the right. So duh, of course it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I mean, they should, by this logic, be more censored. Duh, of course. I don't want some freaking guy with a white hood on the internet saying, you know what, maybe we should all be race realists. I'm not feeling that, dog. Okay? Not feeling that, doggy. I don't need my Jewish ancestors getting oppressed again. Get censored, bro.
I'm assuming most of us are conservative-ish, you know, in that spectrum, but I think that a lot has happened during the January 6th riots. That's why we see it more, and that's why it's more big of a problem now.
You know, Parler can't even be on the App Store, or, you know, I mean, Trump got kicked off Twitter.
They undid the Parler thing. Take it easy.
Twitter. I mean, he's the free world, basically, at least for the U.S., and, you know, he doesn't even have access
was
to
this
a
made?
social media platform.
I think there was Twitter.
When the fuck was this made? This is March 28th. He hasn't been the leader of the free world for months. What are you talking about?
Which was left-leaning long before there was something like Parler.
Well, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I think that these echo chambers that are created as a result of censorship are a reaction. They're reactionary. They're not necessarily, they wouldn't exist by themselves if right-leaning people weren't being censored.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true, right? Like, if you didn't get rid of all the crazy conspiracy theorists, race realists off of Twitter, they wouldn't go somewhere else. But I mean, maybe we shouldn't have those people on there. I'm thinking that, like, if you're passing around conspiracies about, you know, vaccinations turning you into an autistic child, maybe you shouldn't be on the platform. That's all I'm saying. I mean, like, censorship makes sense to me a little bit. We just have to we have to figure out where the line is what we need to be debating. Jubilee, where's the line? That's what they should make an episode called. Where's the line? That's what we need to be talking about. Not censor. Who gives a shit which side gets censored more? Go fuck yourself. Where's the line?
I guess I disagree because usually when I think of conservatives, I do think of the party of law and order. So that was definitely something that Trump spoke about often. Like, there are consequences to your actions. Maybe more people could read the terms and conditions and find a platform that they feel more comfortable with, like Parler, 4chan.
But what Trump said wasn't.
I mean, she's literally agreeing with them. Then I disagree with that the fact that conservatives are censored more, because it says that they should be censored more in the guidelines. Like, you just said that they should be censored more. You don't disagree. You just think it's justifiable. Those are two different things. You silly goose.
Really as bad as what I've seen other Democrats say.
Well, I guess to not deflect, what should be the appropriate consequences when someone violates the terms and conditions?
I think it should be like a clear punishment, right? It's
not about violate. Like, it's about it's about the line of what the violations are.
Punishment, like, especially for like being kicked off, it should be for everybody. Yeah. But if that is the solution, that has to be the solution for everybody.
So, No Name, Sean King are two of the most prominent left-leaning activists that I know of.
Okay.
And they have been repeatedly banned from Twitter, suspended from Facebook, Instagram kicked them off. And then when it happens to Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, we hear,
fuck is Ben Shapiro? The fuck? Who's ever pronounced it like that?
Conservative voices are being, but it's the exact same thing that was happening on the left.
I mean, I feel like Ben Shapiro at least is generally pretty respectful. He knows where the line is. I don't know who the fuck those black activists are, but picking four people and saying, well, my two favorite leftist activists are getting censored, so that means that all leftists are getting censored is the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's now happening.
Ben Shapiro the Dragon. Spyro the Dragon.
Right. So I think the problem is the conservatives that believe this rhetoric is being suppressed, I don't think they know the other side is dealing with the same thing.
There's no real history of which I'm aware of left-leaning creators being blacklisted.
They're not.
The way that guys like Alex Jones, James Woods, Donald Trump have been.
Yeah.
Alex Jones was on this journalistic scene for 30 years.
Alex Jones is a kook. Alex Jones, I've seen some of his earlier work, and like he actually is almost profound. Some of the shit that he says, but like his more recent work is profoundly insane. Isn't that interesting? How you go down the toilet bowl?
And they erased all 30 years of that.
How about the White House YouTube channel? They eliminated all of Trump's videos, all of them.
Do you not see the difference though? Because Sean,
I feel like we're arguing extremes here. Hey, did you know that this black racist and this white racist both got banned off of social media? Like, I'm not really super concerned with the most extreme aspects. Like, let's talk about the dudes who are not extreme. Let's talk about the guys that are making a silly joke. Or let's talk about Gina Carano, somebody who's just like says some dumb shit and gets canceled.
Sean King says abolish the police. And, say Alex Jones, for example, says Jewish people own most of the property in America. And if you want to deal with property owners, deal primarily with Jewish people.
Oh, that sounds like a pretty censored. I mean, that might be true. I don't fucking know. I mean, my people do pretty well.
2015. So obviously there's a stark difference in rhetoric and consequence even. You call the virus Kung Flu, and then a rise in violence against Asian Americans.
But who called it Kung Flu?
President Trump.
Did he say it directly though?
Yeah, very directly.
He tweeted it, yeah.
He tweeted
So
it?
And he said it.
there are reasons for the differences in consequences, but I think if we understand that it's happening widespread, because I've seen people on the left say kill cops, permanently banned, permanently like done.
Right.
I haven't seen. I mean, like constantly. I mean, I've never seen that before. Maybe it's happening, but again, we're arguing extremes here.
So I think we have to take
we
a
go
step back,
extreme examples.
remove ourselves from the box that we're in, and kind of, okay, is it happening over here too?
There's ideas that exist on and offline that are abominable, that I disavow unequivocally, but that I subscribed to when I was younger. You know, when I was younger, didn't understand what I was necessarily looking at, didn't have enough worldview or perspective to know that these were not good ideas. But because that they were censored by the forums that I was espousing them in, I never had the opportunity to have them challenged. I would never have the opportunity to have a conversation about why these were bad ideas.
I'm so confused. This kid was just like, hey, when I was younger, I was looking at shit that's really stupid, and I realized that now that I got older. But we should have never banned those stupid things, because then I could have a conversation about why they're stupid instead of just learning that they're stupid as I got older and realized that they're stupid. Like, what the hell are you talking about? By your logic, I'm like, let's ban the fuck out of everything now. That's like the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
There was no purveyance of the ideological free market, and that's really the only way for these ideas to go away. Take, for example, like white supremacy. People who have those beliefs don't go away when you ban them from platforms. Those beliefs don't go away when you tell them to shut up. Those beliefs don't go away when you punch them in the face.
Yes, they do. What are you talking about? I'll punch a white supremacist right in his fucking face. Yes, they do. Like, spreading hateful ideas goes away when you lose the ability to spread that hateful idea. What are you talking about? The issue isn't white supremacists getting banned, okay? Get banned white supremacists. I don't want to see white supremacists on any social media platform. I don't give a fuck. The issue is when you cancel people for not being white supremacists and then labeling them white supremacists, and then they start becoming white supremacists. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, if you call a young girl a prostitute over and over again as she gets old, like, you know, when she's young, she's more likely to become a prostitute. You constantly devaluing somebody devalues them. That's what happens, especially socially. Okay, it's just, come on.
You know, or when you revoke their rally permits.
But when do we draw the line? Because if somebody, let's use Kung Flu, for example, what I said earlier. Let's say it's Alex Jones that says, oh, this is a Chinese virus. They brought it here. And then we see a rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans. When do we draw the line? Because he would still have the platform.
I mean, I don't think we should deprive the people who are actually committing these crimes of the agency in committing them.
Right.
You know, like, they are doing that, and they frankly would be doing that regardless of whether or not there was somebody who was using inflammatory rhetoric.
The fuck? What did this guy just say? You shouldn't remove the agency of people that do bad things? By that logic, you go fucking don't put murderers in jail. What are you talking about? I mean, what? I'm so confused. This is a confusing point. I mean, listen, with the whole virus, like, I understand that they were blaming it on China because it was like the only thing we could do. We couldn't do anything literally. We could only socially shame China. We couldn't actually sanction them because we're in a fucking recession because of the coronavirus. But, like, yeah, it had like a negative impact, and we probably should have stopped saying it at that point. Yeah, I mean, so, like, don't let people say Kung Flu or anything, or Chinese virus. You could say a virus from China. That makes more sense, you know?
Online. That's exactly my point when I say these ideas don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feed that,
But those ideas will go away. I'm just like...
ideas, you build the anger.
So, for example, if you ban a white supremacist or a huge white supremacist group from Twitter, there are still probably going to be white supremacists chilling and hanging out outside of Twitter.
Right.
But it would be harder for that white supremacist group on that platform to inflict harm towards black folks.
Yeah, I agree. We just have to label what is an actual white supremacist, okay? There's a difference, because sometimes people get a little kooky.
Right, because then I do feel safer. So if I'm being harassed by a white supremacist group or someone who's saying that black people don't deserve to live, I do feel safer as a user. Are they going to stop being a white supremacist? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do. That's their free speech. However, it does make me feel a lot safer.
I just think the left is now catching more up to us and realizing that the censorship is happening, and then now it's kind of touching their side too more. And maybe with Sean King, you see it.
We're starting to realize that far leftists are pieces of shit, and they will cancel anybody that doesn't agree with them. That's what we need to realize.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it pick up more in the past few months on both sides.
I mean, with the left, it's, I mean, the example I gave was from 2014.
I know.
That's been around for a while. Even when you're looking at the
not-
civil rights movement and you're looking at the literal burning down of civil rights headquarters and things like that. My parents and my grandparents, my great-grandparents in the civil rights movement were continuously policed and harassed for their beliefs, violently so, jailed for their beliefs. So I find it almost, it's hard for me to compare when civil rights folks.
I mean, like, but you're talking about real life shit. Are we talking about online censorship? That was like the implied conversation that we're having. Are we talking about in real life? Like, yeah, historically, progressive ideology has been censored in real life. They would shoot black people with fire hoses. Like, yeah, no shit. But that's not what we're talking about. If that is what we're talking about, then you definitely didn't make that distinction correctly. Because anytime anybody talks about censorship, it's always online.
Are being imprisoned and killed for their beliefs. However, because a conservative can't use Twitter, I'm supposed to feel bad.
Well, I don't think there's a comparison. What I wonder is whether or not there's a leftist ideologue, someone who is similar to Alex Jones or someone like that was blackballed from 6 social media platforms over the course of 12 hours.
On the left, it doesn't really happen at all. Look at what they admonish, like abolish police, give everybody health care. Like, what in that world, what in that realm would be like, you're done. You don't need to, you're talking about killing people.
Well, nothing, but like abolishing the police is stupid. And free health care is also like, I hate the way people talk about healthcare in the United States. Like, leftists are so stupid. They're like, what would be cheaper if we had universal healthcare with no private options? Like, yeah, no, it's not. That's actually it's a fallacy. What's her fucking name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got like railed by like CNN for promoting that fake narrative. Like, Jake Tapper was like, yeah, it's false. It would be more expensive. Like, they're like, it'll be $2 trillion cheaper over 10 years. No, it'll be like $20 trillion more expensive over 10 years. So, like, they're dangerous idea. It really is a dangerous ideology to talk about abolishing the police and pure, like, universal health care without a private option. Like, those are actually really bad if they got implemented. They're obviously not as bad as, like, race realists talking about like, exterminating non-white people. But, like, these aren't good ideologies. They shouldn't be censored. But, like, people need to stop accepting them as fact because they're stupid.
So we're saying burn it all down this summer during the riots.
Buildings, but that's not.
But that's still people's property. They saved their whole savings. $2 billion damages as a country. We need to say that violence is bad. Burning people's stuff is bad.
And killing.
I think we need to give perspective to it. Yeah, it has to be context. Yeah, because we can't say burning buildings is bad and not understand the reason as to why they burn. I don't agree with.
I mean, not for nothing, but like this whole thing is like, we get it. Like killing unarmed people is bad. Like, obviously there's particular issues that impact black people. We get it, totally get it. But like, that doesn't justify going into shooting a fucking black guy outside of a small business, a former police officer. You know what I'm saying? Like, these riots are fucking insane. Like, some of the riots got really crazy where you're killing civilians while you fight for freedom and you're looting small businesses. Like, if your issues with the police, go fucking light a police station on fire. Don't do that. But if you're gonna destroy something, go destroy the establishment that's oppressing you. Don't go destroying the local Target. How the hell does that help? All right, there's so many people who jumped on the riots. They're like, I'm gonna go get a free TV. Hey, a black guy died. I'm just gonna steal a TV. They didn't give a shit. A lot of these rioters were just going around just trying to fucking loot, trying to destroy shit.
Burning them, but we kind of got to give context to both. We can't just say this is all terrible.
I don't want to be anecdotal about this, but at the same, so my parents are immigrants. They work for everything that they have. My mom, she came from a family of 6, and they didn't have a lot when they came to this country. And each of their siblings, including my mom, they had to work for everything that they have, and they made something of themselves. So and then we also have rental properties. So if one of them burned down because of a riot, that's our life savings right there. We put a lot of money into that.
So I guess let's take it back to the civil rights movement, because usually I think the future sometimes is a better indicator of what's like morally right and wrong. I lived about 10 minutes from Ferguson and was there when those buildings were burning down, and it was incredibly terrifying. But I also remember the business owners who said, I can replace my windows. What I can't replace is a lost child. So hearing those business owners, hearing them, I can talk about them hypothetically and how I hypothetically think they might feel, but I also can talk about people who had their own buildings burned down.
And people.
What kind of a fucking argument is that? Like, yeah, I would rather my business burn down than a fucking person die. But like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? The only people who are like, yeah, I don't care if my whole business gets burned down are people who have the money to float it off. If you're a small business and you're already struggling, and then somebody destroys your business, you're fucked. Like, stop it. Let's stop pretending that like the inability to work is like a joke. Bro, if people lose their low life, like, what the fuck? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes any sense at all. We started with like police officers doing the wrong thing when it comes to like the lack of accountability in police officers when it comes to like their interactions with black people. Then that turns into let's destroy local businesses that have nothing to do with oppression from police. and then you're going to justify that. That makes no sense. Your logic is so flawed. You're justifying rioting. Why couldn't you just say like, yeah, those things are bad. We should have destroyed the post office or something. You understand what I'm saying? Like you go after the establishment. You know what I'm talking about? Like
people who do say that they're on like the Black Lives Matter side, of course.
Not necessarily. A lot of them are white.
But at the same time,
the fuck does that mean? There's a lot of white people on the Black Lives Matter side. What are you talking about? What did she just
like? The Black Lives Matter side, of course.
Not necessarily. A lot of them are white.
Yeah, like it's all the Black Lives Matter. The people rioting and looting are all on the Black Lives Matter side. Like it doesn't matter if you're black. Hot take: white people support Black Lives Matter. Oh my god!
But at the same time, like I go back to business because I'm an accountant. I care about the numbers and all that stuff. But
and I care about Black lives.
I
care about lives.
Yeah, we all care about.
Yeah, if you really care about lives, you wouldn't want people's lives destroyed by not being able to work.
Black lives, but also too, like a lot of misinformation was spread about those riots too, with the hands up, don't shoot. They said that he was facing backwards, and they found out that he wasn't, and he didn't have his hands up.
You talking about last year? Or
no, talking about Michael Brown. That's what started this.
Yeah.
Let's just not.
And then they're spreading the misinformation.
Let's get into that. Let's totally get into Michael Brown. Nobody talks about it. Let's not get into that. Michael Brown is the literal perfect conversation to have about fucking systemic oppression. It's a guy where there was like a false media narrative that charged a cop and was justifiably shot. But then after they looked through the DOJ report that said that the police officer was justified, turns out that the police officers were violating the constitutional rights, the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights of the black Americans in that area. So if you don't think that's going to drive people to distrust police and cause more crime, you're a moron. That's a perfect conversation to have. What are you talking about? And black people jumping on the hands up, don't shoot narrative like incorrectly because they thought it was true was just like a desperate plea for people to start listening. You don't pick your fucking martyr. Why wouldn't you talk about that? I would go on for half an hour about Michael Brown if I was there. Are you kidding me? That's the bread and butter of like the Black Lives Matter conversation of systemic oppression. That is the literal conversation that we don't have. What are you talking about? You don't want to get into that? Get into it. Talk about that. Make that a big deal. You're on this fucking platform and you don't want to talk about the real fucking shit? I'm going to kill the dog is what we're going to talk about.
And then it also...
And also, if you'd like to have the perspective, so I was there that day, unfortunately, and we can talk about censorship. So after he was killed, he was on the ground for 4 hours. Our radio stations were turned off and our news stations were turned off. So we didn't have information as to what was going on, which I agree.
How do you know he was on the ground for 4 hours?
Allowed misinformation to spread. Exactly. However, to say that... So no, I'm not agreeing with you, but I'm saying maybe like know what the people in that community were faced with before speaking on something that you don't know.
No, it's terrible.
So educate them, like I just did. I actually had that down pretty quick. I was able to pop that out in 2 minutes.
That's terrible. The censorship of those radio stations is awful, and I think it contributed to a lot of
misinformation.
Not just misinformation, but pain and destruction that happened within those communities because people weren't being given the information they were entitled to.
Yeah.
I think that in itself is an argument against censorship for sure.
Tech companies should be allowed to ban whoever they want.
It's a question to ask. I got to think about that. I mean, they're a private bit. The problem with tech companies, it's super vague. When you say tech companies, you're not talking about tech companies. You're talking about individual social media outlets. And each individual social media outlet is very unique to the other. So Twitter is very different from TikTok, which is very different from Facebook, which is very different, etc. Right? Like usually, remember we had Facebook and then MySpace. Well, MySpace died, right? Usually, there's one particular platform, and they all turn into like online. They turn into online fucking town halls, or online town squares. They turn into like the online version of like real life, your ability to platform yourself. And so censoring somebody from Twitter is it can be argued as a massive restriction to like freedom of speech. It's not as simple as it's a private organization. Like it's a literal online town square where you get to have like exchange ideas and have conversations. And so to just kind of rampantly excuse every form of censorship on there, I think is ignorant. These are very unique. Our government historically has been dog shit when it comes to dealing with online enterprises in general. That's the reason why Amazon is basically a fucking monopoly. It's because we didn't implement restrictions for Amazon at all. Like we still haven't even dealt with the online shit. We're so stupid and old when it comes to these things. So like to have such like a basic perspective of this is a very complicated conversation that we really need to have.
Wow. It's a hard one, honestly, because is it whoever just based on what they deem is wrong? Like, I don't know.
I worked in a country club once, and they had the strict dress code for employees and even for members. I mean, you can, as long as it's legal.
Right, that's the one caveat. I mean, you can't say no Jews.
Where's the black girl? I meant.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
As long as they have a set terms and conditions, then yeah, they can ban whoever they want. They shouldn't just ban whoever,
I think they should be able to say, okay, you're done, even if it doesn't necessarily impede on the terms and conditions.
Basically, I think what we're having is a free market response, saying let them do what they want and let consumers go where they are. But you have to have a functioning free market where people can go somewhere else.
But they can't right now, though. That's the problem.
Who wouldn't be able to go to
Parler being removed from the app.
Even the existence of Parler is not the same thing as Twitter. Like, it's a massive restriction to like your online presence, and can like massively restrict you as an individual.
It's on web services and App Store, and basically it's an antitrust law kind of thing, because basically they're trying to create a monopoly between all the social media, like Twitter and Facebook. And I think that's what I got off of it.
I've actually talked to an owner of one platform who says they do more to combat hate speech on a per person basis than some of the larger entities, but they still can't get picked up on Apple and the Google Play.
That's my problem.
The market isn't functioning properly then.
Like, okay, should Twitter have the leader of Hezbollah be on Twitter? They're listed.
It says Hezbollah is a I don't know if I'm saying this right, Islamic political party and militant group based in Lebanon, designated a terrorist organization by several countries, include the EU.
A terror group by the EU and the US.
Well, they've been sued over that.
I mean, have they?
And they've been sued over that, but as long as the tweets aren't promoting terror or violating the terms,
Hezbollah is a political party in Lebanon.
I know Bin Laden's dead, but if he were alive and he made a Twitter and he didn't tweet anything that violated the terms and conditions, to his point, wouldn't they be able to still stay on the platform?
I don't know.
I think that
I
think that should be fair.
That's a conversation I never thought about.
Because not necessarily.
I agree. They should just ban them.
Maybe
I'm just saying that, like,
look at all these fucking cishet men talking about stuff while the woman's excluded.
if they have a set guidelines and set rules, they shouldn't and they follow them. Then why would you take them off in the first place?
I mean, if it violates their terms and conditions, I think they can ban whoever they want, but I guess just a hypothetical, if all of a sudden they were like, we don't want to see breastfeeding, so we're going to ban everyone just because we want.
Yes, do that. I don't want to see breastfeeding. Bro, let me tell you something, okay? Breastfeeding, okay, well, I mean, on Twitter has porn, so you can't really say that. But, like, breastfeeding is just middle-aged white girls who want to stir up controversy. That's all it is. Okay? There's no real reason to breastfeed on the internet or in public unless you're just trying to get a rise out of somebody. You can cover it. You don't have to put it up there, and you know that. Okay? There's no reason for you to do it. You go in public, I got to feed my baby. Pump your tits beforehand. Weird. Get one of those baby blankets or just throw your kid in the garbage.
Want to. Technically they can because they're a private, business entity, but I guess morally it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I want to agree, but I feel like if I do agree, then I feel like I would be giving social media and tech companies far too much importance. Right. People exist without social media. I don't think if you ban somebody, that's
social media is a pretty big deal.
Morally egregious act.
I think you'd be shocked the number of people, especially like my age and younger, who get their news exclusively from social media. My worry about it is that the algorithms of these companies do not incentivize nuance. So a lot of the time you see, like, what trends is what is getting clicks, and a lot of the time that's controversy.
But sometimes
well, yeah, but that's because of people. Like, people are like part of the mechanism. Like, people want controversy. They don't want nuance. Most people don't want to critically think. They just want to find something that aligns with their confirmation bias and then just double down on that. People don't want to be uncomfortable. They want to be lazy and stupid.
They artificially put things that are trending up there that really aren't.
Well, the problem is it's the Wizard of Oz.
Reddit did that and Twitter does that too.
We don't know what those algorithms are, but there are suspicions that they are trying to fuel conflict.
Right.
And conflict creates clicks, which creates comments, which creates engagement. And so in some ways, social media is dividing us as much as it is bringing people together in this.
I mean, social media is like allowing a platform for divisiveness and people to be divisive.
It's a big platform.
Oh, they definitely profit off of the division too.
When we talk about the terms and agreements, it's interesting because there's nothing that says incitement of violence. But if we do put incitement of violence, then Trump didn't really, I believe he didn't.
Well, then you have to have a conversation of what is incitement of violence. That's one of those things with like hate speech. Like, what is hate speech? Like, we're considering Gina Carano hate speech because she said that like she feels conservatives are being censored in the same way that Jewish people were in the beginning of the Holocaust, like before the Holocaust started. You know what I mean? Like, is that hate speech or is that just kind of stupid? And I think it's just kind of stupid.
Cite that because he didn't say.
But she didn't get banned at the platform, but she lost her job for that. It's so stupid.
Go to the Capitol and beat them
break
up.
down the doors and the windows.
But you have people on. During the Black Lives Matter movement saying, be restless, break down stuff, punch a Nazi in the face.
Maybe if you
can punch a Nazi in the face. I feel like Like, if you're advocating for the destruction of small business, you probably should be censored. If you tell somebody to punch a Nazi in the face, like, why are we having these conversations? Like, punch a Nazi in the face. Like, yes, do that. 100% do that. Punch a Nazi in the face. Shoot him with a gun. I don't care. The Nazi.
Communicated with those people, you would know that a lot of people were banned. There were mass bannings of Black Lives Matter supporters since 2014. I personally don't know anyone who identifies as Antifa. That's usually something that I hear as like a talking point on the right. But personally, I know they exist. I don't know much about them, so would love for you to explain.
I feel like Antifa like exacerbates the issues of BLM. Like they're the ones that go into like areas and start like rioting and looting. Like it's a bunch of the angsty white kids that go in the areas and they start the division. And they start the hatred, and then people just kind of like go along with it. It's like a weird hive mind thing.
So I mean, they are getting banned, right?
I personally don't think so because like I think like maybe small people like because I focus on a big
social justice account showing.
I feel like it's like larger people who actually sit in violence, like Maxine Waters. I mean Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon. Like
Chris Cuomo's inciting violence.
He said like who said protests have to be peaceful?
Yeah,
I think
yeah, that is a little bit of an incitement of violence.
a good basis point to like look at that from is.
Although that's like an American value, non-peaceful protests. I don't really care about the rioting as much as I care about what they're rioting against. Like, you're gonna fucking destroy a Target.
Whether or not someone
go tip over a police car,
who goes on and incites violence, who is
like, isn't that crazy though? So like the police do something wrong, and then people riot, and then we put the police there to make sure that they don't riot the wrong way. I don't know. Seems like a weird
politician is being treated differently than like someone who goes on and incites violence and is a protest organizer. I think as a concern, yes, the inequitable enforcement of terms and conditions is a concern to me on whatever side it's on. And I think back to their various examples. I mean, I think one good one is the Covington kids. Are you guys familiar with this?
Of course, yeah.
Where a lot of people were putting things like, oh, we're gonna kill these kids, we're gonna feed these kids into the wood chipper, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they weren't really getting banned from it.
Yeah.
And there was postulation in right-leaning circles that it was because those kids were wearing MAGA hats.
Cancel culture is a conversation that has been happening in liberal spaces as well. Maybe we don't have like Fox. I don't know. We have these other stations, but maybe it's just not reported on a lot. However, I do hear so many conversations about cancel culture, forgiveness, and accountability happening in liberal circles as well.
Spreading lies should be protected as free speech.
Yeah, they should be. That's part of the Constitution. You should be allowed to lie, right? Like if somebody's like, "Hey, did you just shit your pants?" And am I supposed to tell you the truth? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that smell is either. It's probably you. Don't talk to me. Say that again to me, I'll smack you in the face. Right? Lies should be protected. It's freedom of speech. Okay.
My thing here is that I think we have to be very attentive to who we make the arbiter of the truth.
When I think about lies and like people's lies, I think about people's truth, people's perspective, people's opinions, and that should be protected in that sense because if you feel something and you believe in something or you have an opinion on something, that is your truth. That is, well, maybe to some people it's a lie, maybe to most of the people it's a lie, but that's your truth and you have the right to say your truth, right?
There's a difference between an opinion and a fact. Like your truth is a stupid thing to say. Saying so that's your truth is like flavorful language of speaking on your experience. But it doesn't make it a fact. What are you talking about?
Trump started this campaign
or a lie.
The election was rigged. He actually does believe that. That is his truth. It seems like a lie to a lot of people on the left.
It's not his truth. It's misinformation. You would say he wasn't lying, but he was ill-informed is what you would say. Should he be protected to say it? For sure. He didn't violate freedom of speech.
Probably some people on the right, but he has the right to say that. There's nothing in the Constitution, there's no law saying.
Well, the question that begs is who says whether it's a lie?
Yeah.
Who decides it's a lie?
Yeah, who's the arbiter, like you said?
Just like the fact people, the people who determined that there was no wide-scale election fraud. I feel like those are the people.
If we allow lies to be spread as part of like a free speech, then we have what we have now currently is, I think 500,000 people now died of coronavirus. And a lot of them died on account of just lies. If you wear a mask, you can't breathe in it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to social distance. This is a liberal hoax. So if we protect lies,
the CDC said the mask didn't work at first. Like we're talking about the wrong lying. The CDC lied to us, and then Donald Trump is an idiot. and he was too focused on the economy. There's like so many like levels to this.
In the realm of free speech, they have real life, real time consequences.
We protect people from certain things that are dangerous. And if I said, take this placebo, don't, because it'll cure cancer, and people did that and died, that would be dangerous.
Theoretically, you would be liable, correct?
I would be liable
If you
too,
use your
yes.
credentials to say, drink this and it will cure your cancer, and
Right.
someone did that, you would be liable.
But
Yeah,
with CBS,
this isn't free speech anymore. This like now we're just talking about like it's like false advertising.
the airtime for a commercial for that. No.
We complain as conservatives that there's not enough fact checkers that are on the right. There's Snopes, there's fact check, they're on the left, but
I mean, to me, this sounds like, yeah, you should be protected for freedom of speech, but like you shouldn't have freedom of consequences. What are we talking about
there
here?
needs to be someone to take.
Snopes is on the left.
Oh yeah.
How does the fact check become?
Yeah,
the facts are,
Snopes is absolutely a left leaning. It's what are you talking about? When did we decide that Snopes wasn't on the left? It totally is. Doesn't mean they're wrong, but there are times where they were just like, I forget what it was. I forget what I was looking at, but it was something where they were just like, oh, I actually might be able to come up with the example. Let me keep playing this.
It donates.
Unless they check facts.
Yeah.
Well, if they're actually a fact check.
Well,
yeah.
are there any that you all support that we could like look into, or do you think that's something that like Republicans could try to
That's
make
what
more
I mean.
like
There needs to be.
I personally think that Snopes and Politico are by and large very accurate.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you continue, please.
No, I think they're by and large very accurate, but I think as with literally any media source, I mean, you can't look at, there's nothing that will be the unequivocal truth.
Right.
There's nothing, so you need to like look at, you need to look at it and know that it's being written from a place of bias. Oh, I mean, sure, like hydroxychloroquine is not going to like cure you of COVID.
Right, but that's not liberal or conservative, that's just true.
That's stupid
I
or
guess
not stupid.
It depends. It depends. It depends if it's like an opinion, and then it also depends if people, like politicians, love throwing out different statistics and studies and things like that. And as like a little sciencey person, I do believe in the scientific method for the most part, and I think that things should be tested over and over and over again. And I think providing those, like if a politician is saying a statistic, I think there should be some sort of fact-checking body. However, I am totally on board with there being a fact-checking body.
That's a media issue. Because the media just doesn't. They used to. What the media used to do is they would hold people accountable for what they said. Now they're just like a talking piece.
That is, say, 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. I think that's totally fine.
There is political bias, I'm sure, in the Snopes realm. Somebody on the corporate board is liberal. You said the CEO, fine. Yeah. But there is true and untrue. And if we begin to link those two with like political affiliations, then it's dangerous because we have no realm of truth.
There are lies that are harmful, Lawrence, like you were describing. There are a lot of lies that are harmful and have caused a lot of harm, but giving the government the power to arbitrate what is and isn't true,
That's a different
I think
story,
can also cause a lot of harm as well.
We're far more, we should worry far more about the social sphere than the governmental sphere because we have the First Amendment.
That's First Amendment should trump all. That's at least where I stand.
Yeah, for the government.
Right. I think for individuals too.
Well, no, I mean, the First Amendment is about government restriction on speech.
Yeah, not
So a lot of people that say I got banned on Twitter and my First Amendment rights were violated. No, that's a private.
Yeah, it's a private company.
Well, that's why you'd have a conversation about like what is Twitter now? Is Twitter just a private company, or is Twitter like a whole new online like town hall space? It's I feel like it's very different. It's just a very different thing.
Get it?
Some people should not have a platform.
Probably, yeah. Like everybody should. There are some people who shouldn't have a platform. What are you talking about?
I know this kind of goes against my freedom of speech outlook, but like we were saying before, like I don't want to see Hezbollah having, a Twitter feed, or I don't want to see, ISIS having a Twitter feed. There's definitely a fine line. I can't say everyone deserves a platform.
There's this thing called the paradox of tolerance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's essentially saying that if we're tolerant of everybody, if we give everybody a voice, and we're like, all right, everything everybody says is okay as long as you feel that way. If we're tolerant,
Yeah, tolerating the intolerant leads to intolerance.
of everything,
Yeah.
then eventually our tolerance will be snuffed out by people that are intolerant.
I think if they're causing harm, so like you
That's
all were all saying,
exactly.
that's when, and like serious harm, I don't think that we should encourage that. So whether that's like the illegal trade of an endangered species or that's a terrorist organization, I think as a society we should kind of.
The reason why I didn't on board is because, I think it goes back to cancel culture in a sense, like people who have been espoused from society because they did something so wrong is that
Cancel culture.
Yeah, and people do bad things and people have committed like terrible things to people or someone or group of people, but I think forgiveness should be an element and people should have their chance to get back on their platforms by, doing something. I personally don't know what the social media companies would do, but
It's also like, I guess, deplatforming versus banning versus just people not really wanting to mess with them anymore. And usually the people who are really vocal about cancel culture sometimes are people who they still have their platform, they still have their Twitter, they still have their Instagram. They're just mad that society has been like, R. Kelly, we don't like you. Or like,
I don't know about that. Listen, like I've posted videos before where I talk about beating the crap out of dogs that don't stop barking. No, like I posted, so there's people on like TikTok who will post about how like they think it's fine that trans women compete in sports completely unregulated, and I disagree, and I'll respectfully disagree, and I'll talk about how there should be the restrictions like the Olympics has placed in as like a reasonable compromise, and that gets pulled down for hate speech. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the censorship doesn't mean you lose your platform. It just means that you're restricted in some of the things that you're able to say. And I don't think that it should be hate speech to suggest that like a trans woman would have a biological advantage to a cisgendered woman, which is why we should implement some form of regulation to make sure that if we do allow trans and cis women to play together, they play together within like a reasonable like parameters so that trans women can't dominate cis women.
Like, you know what, we don't like that you caused a bunch of harm to people.
Right. The other thing I think about with deplatforming is that you rob somebody of their opportunity for absolution. So if Alex Jones were to decide, and for somebody whose platform is their livelihood, not whose platform or who has a livelihood outside of their platform like J.K. Rowling, when you take that away from them, if he were to suddenly turn around and he were to say, okay, the frogs aren't gay, you know, and like
the frogs are gay.
He's right about the frogs,
these people aren't controlling the weather. He would have no platform to come and say that, which I consider to be a problem.
Am I the only one that's not in favor of this whole like forgiveness?
Why are they so close to each other? I know that they got their COVID whatevers, but it's just weird.
Yes, you can come back thing.
It depends.
What'd she say?
Yeah, in favor of this whole like forgiveness, you can come back thing.
It depends. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, because I feel like it depends on the degree. Yeah, because I feel like I hate cancel culture. I hate the notion that we can essentially exile somebody for what they did. But on the same hand, I still believe that consequences are real. And if you do something that causes lasting damage, then you need lasting consequences.
I mean, yeah, but again, we're arguing extremes. There's a difference between somebody who like, I don't know, like Donald Trump, whatever, you want to ban him permanently, I really don't care. There's a difference between that and the kid who said the N-word when he was 13 and got like canceled for life. Like, obviously you can come back from different things. So like, you know, you would have to identify what the damage is. Like, I don't know why we're arguing extremes here to force a particular narrative.
You know, if somebody is a manslaughter, we put them in jail for life. If somebody, you know, does something to harm somebody for over a longer period of time, you should not be able to.
Yeah, right. But like, see how you're using murderers as your example and not like the drug addicts? It's a little bit ironic that you're like a progressive black activist, but we're not talking about, you know, the flaws of over sentencing people for particular things, whether it's social or criminal.
Redeem yourself and come back to the same place that you were when you caused that harm.
You're gonna have a niche audience like Alex Jones. I'm sure he still has dedicated followers. But to say that everybody needs to forgive you, oh no, because I might not. It depends on your religion. It depends on so many different things. But yeah, but I think people are able to come back to some extent, but they're hating on the fact that they're not able to make as much money.
I can think of personal instances where I had opinions that were heard out of context, that were rather moderate or something like that, where people had very visceral reactions and immediately things started to come apart.
True.
And I wish
I fucking remember when I said that the $15 an hour minimum wage was stupid and that we should talk about, like, we should think outside the box and like look towards UBI, and fucking progressives lost their mind. The leftists lost their shit, which is insane. How it's so ironic that I promoted a more progressive ideology or more progressive policy, but then somehow they were just too stupid to see that part. It's crazy how like reactionary and ignorant people can be on the internet.
More of a chance to be heard. And like, I'm not going to state these things, but they were not anywhere near the vein of what I was talking about earlier. These were things that were just kind of unpopular and easy to take out of context. And I wished that
I wonder what he said. He's probably like, yeah, I think that like, women are inferior. No, wait, I didn't mean it like that.
Had more of a chance for people to hear me out, as opposed to kind of react viscerally from the start.
And I think there's also personal accountability. So
Bro, I would raise the minimum wage based on inflation and then implement UBI. I don't think we need to raise it to $10.50.
For example, if I say something online and a bunch of people, whether they're my followers, especially if they're people who I know and trust and they have a really visceral reaction to it, sometimes I think what's missing on social media is that moment for self-reflection of like, did I say something that may have hurt other people? Can I get curious about it? I might not agree
Bro,
with that
like,
person.
that's nice, but like sometimes people need to stop getting so fucking offended over everything, honestly.
Being hurt, but can I at least empathize with it? Or do I want to get back on social media and say everyone is silencing me so then I can have a more niche audience of people who only agree with me? Because at this point, I think that most people just want to feel seen, heard, and validated on the left and on the right. And I think there are a lot of people on the right.
Yeah, that's the problem. Everybody thinks that their feelings are valid. That's the problem we have, is that we actually we're like encouraging this idea that your feelings matter. Your feelings don't matter, okay? They don't really matter that much. Like, they matter a little bit, but shut the fuck up. Like, not everything needs to be like World War III meltdown level.
Right? That do not feel seen, heard, and validated. I'm not going to say that
like, it's the point where we can't have conversations about real things without people being, well, that upsets me a little bit. It's like, okay, well, it's what?
what you all are feeling is a figure.
No, listen, like feelings matter, but they don't, right? Like, bro, do you know how many times I've watched like a debate, and like I know I keep using trans people as an issue, so I'm sorry to trans people, but where they like you'll talk when you're specifically in the realm of having a conversation about like trans individuals, especially when it comes to sports, and you'll use the term like biological men or women, and all of a sudden it's like, well, no, don't use that. Use assigned at assigned at birth, and it's like stop. Like, I don't like because it's upsetting to trans people. Just shut the fuck up. We're not talking about like we're not in the real world. I would never call trans women a biological man. That'd be ignorant. But we're specifically talking about it where it's relevant. I'm not going to censor my language so that you feel a little bit more comfortable. Like it's just it's ridiculous.
I think it's coming from somewhere and needs to be attended to.
You know, you see all these bad things about happening to Trump supporters and like they're getting their car keyed or stuff like that. And then my parents are always like, maybe you should just keep it to yourself. And that's a shame because I thought we lived in a society where we could talk about differing ideas, and we had that platform to have that free speech and to have a healthy debate. And so it's kind of, I feel, especially my family and on social media, is that they want to put me into submission to suppress my voice and my conservative opinions.
I can kind of resonate with what you said, not necessarily from a family standpoint, but from a like large scale generally speaking. When somebody sees like somebody like me, just a black man, like prominent in their beliefs about like the greatness of pre-colonial Africa, or just loving kente cloth and stuff like that, there are presumptions made, and it obviously doesn't make people like me feel seen or heard or understood because you just seen me and made a bunch of assumptions, assumed a bunch of things. Like I think we kind of have that problem, not only with social media but just in general. There's biases. It's tough. It's tough to have any different opinion or any different voice.
All right. You bump it, whatever you want to do.
Whatever you guys prefer.
Nice to meet you.
A lot of fun.
Hey everyone, if you like that video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow my Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. All links are in the description. Also, check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me even more than you already do. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all.